Alright, welcome back to online class. So we were studying about heterocyclic compounds. In the last class, we studied pyrazole and imidazole, and in this class, let us study about oxazole. Alright, oxazole, as you can see the structure here, oxazole is a five-membered unsaturated heterocyclic compounds. It has got two heterocyclic atoms. One is oxygen, the other one is nitrogen. Oxygen is at position number 1, and I mean it is numbered 1, and nitrogen is at number 3. The numbering is done according to the IUPAC nomenclature. According to IUPAC nomenclature for heterocyclics, the atom, which is, I mean, it is priority wise in the periodic table. The atom, the electronegative atom, or the atom, the heteroatom, which is at the rightmost, so that should be considered first. So oxygen is at position number 1, and nitrogen at position number 3. And this compound is very rare in nature. I mean, in nature it is rare, but you can prepare in the laboratory. You can use this in medicinals. So it has got it is important as medicinals. As you can see, the second structure here, the oxygen has got 4 free electrons, right, and the nitrogen has got 2 free electrons. We will study about that in the next slide. And the another structure here, the circle at the center, it indicates it is a aromatic compound. Let's study deep about the structure. Um, it has got 3 atoms, right? And in that there are 3 carbons, 1 nitrogen and 1 oxygen. And one thing to tell here, all of these 3 atoms, they will form sp2 hybridization, means they are sp2 hybridized. But how are the electrons are getting distributed? That is very interesting. So in case of carbon, carbon has got atomic number 6, that means it has got 6 electrons. As you can see here, 1s2, right, in the first principal level, 2 electrons are there, and the next principal level it has got 4 electrons, but p orbital has got again 3 suborbitals, right, px, py and pz. So here sp2 hybridization takes place, means sp2, 1s and 2 p orbitals, they get hybridized, but the pz orbital, it is going to be left as it is. It won't get hybridized, but the four electrons are going to get distributed in 1s and 3 p orbitals, right? The p orbit, 2 of the p orbitals will be sp2 hybridized. The last one, the last p orbital is unhybridized, and there will be 1 electron in that orbital, right? So so there are 3 carbons, so each one will have 1 electrons in a p orbital, that is unhybridized p orbital. So next is the nitrogen. Nitrogen having atomic number 7, means 7 electrons, that means 1 more electron than the carbon. The 1 extra electron that is going to be in one of the sp2 hybridized orbitals. It is not going to be in the unhybridized p orbitals. It is going to get distributed in sp2 hybridized orbital. But in case of pyrrole, right, in case of pyrrole, it's going to be in unhybridized p orbital. So in here it is going to be in sp2 hybridized orbitals. So next one is oxygen. Oxygen is going to have 1 more electron than the nitrogen. See, 1 extra electron, so that is going to be I mean, that is, there will be two electrons in unhybridized p orbitals, and two more electrons will be in one of the sp2 hybridized orbitals. So here is the distribution. It is shown here. If you take the unhybridized p orbitals, the oxygen has got two electrons and nitrogen has got one, and other three carbons, they will have one each, so total is going to be six electrons. Now this ring structure, it is a ring structure, like the carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, they are going to form sigma bonds, and it is going to be in a ring shape. And this ring is flat. This ring is perfectly flat. It is not flexy, it is not flexible, so it is flat, and it has got electron ring, so electron cloud, the aromatic sextet. Now it will also fulfill the Huckel rule. That means it has got six electrons, so it will fulfill that Huckel rule. So it is going to fulfill all four rules of aromaticity. That's why oxazole is a or is an aromatic compound. So oxazole is aromatic compound. Here we can see one more structure here. Here it says for the oxygen it's furan like oxygen. Why do we say like that? So this oxygen, it behaves like the furan, right? Character wise it behaves like the chemical character, it behaves like the furan. So here one more nitrogen, it is named like pyridine like nitrogen, means it is not like pyrrole like nitrogen. In pyrrole, the two electrons, the extra free two electrons will be in the unhybridized p orbital. So in here it is going to be in sp2 hybridized orbital. So it behaves like a pyridine, not like a pyrrole. Right. This is the structure of oxazole. Right. Now you know the answer for this, why the like four electrons in here on the oxygen and two electrons here in the nitrogen, and you know where are they coming from. All right, let's go to the next topic, that is subtopic, synthesis of oxazole. First method of preparation is Robinson-Gabriel synthesis. So in this synthesis you have to take alpha acyl amino carbonyl compound, alpha acyl amino. So this is the acyl group, CO group, right? As you can see here, acyl group, and it is alpha, the amino group is attached to the alpha position of the of this acyl group, means next to the next to this carbonyl position there is a amino group. So that's why it is alpha acyl amino. And on the other side you can see the carbonyl compound, right? You can see the carbonyl compound, right? Carbonyl substitution here, that's why it is alpha acyl amino carbonyl compound, right? This is subjected to acid, right? Here inorganic acid or the strong acid. Instead of this acid you can take phosphorus pentoxide for the reaction. So you are going to get this intermediary product, and dehydration is going to take place here. One molecule of water will get removed. As you can see, a OH group is going to get removed, right? So you are going to get this product, substituted oxazole compound. So you're going to get the substitution, like the substitutions here, it is just going to cyclize. So this is Robinson-Gabriel synthesis of oxazole. The second method of preparation is from ethyl alpha hydroxy keto succinate. So the product to be taken is the derivative of succinic acid at carboxyl group position. So you're going to get C2O5. So these are esters actually. The ester, this is one ester group. This is another ester group. And instead of OH at position 2, you are having keto group. So it is ethyl alpha hydroxy, and hydroxy group is at alpha position of this keto group. That's why it is ethyl alpha hydroxy keto succinate that is going to react with the formamide at 100 degree centigrade. So you're going to get the cyclized ester ester ring. Okay, this is cyclized one. It is diethyl oxazole 4,5 dicarboxylate. It is still an ester, so we are going to break this ester using water. So going to go through hydrolysis because in the presence of barium hydroxide. So because of the hydrolysis, you are going to get the acid from the ester. So this is the acid salt. You are having two CO group over there, or COO OH is over here. So this one you are going to subject to quinoline in the presence of copper, and you're going to heat it. So decarboxylation is going to take place, and with that you are going to get oxazole. So the final product is the oxazole. That is our product. So this is second method of preparation. Third method of preparation is from isocyanide. What is isocyanide? We know the cyanide, CN group, right? CN group is cyanide. Isocyanide is NC group. NC, the attachment is on the other end. Say this compound is isocyanomethylbenzene. Here is the benzene, the phenyl group. So it is this is your methyl, right? Isocyano methyl benzene you are taking, and making that to react with the acetyl chloride. So this is acetyl group. Here is the chloride group that reacts with acetyl chloride in presence of N-butyl lithium in the presence of acid, and you are going to get this product 5-methyl N-phenyl oxazole, 5-methyl. So 5-methyl, methyl group at fifth position, and 4-phenyl. You're having phenyl group at fourth position. So you're going to get 5-methyl 4-phenyl oxazole. Alright, that is with the synthesis. Next, we are going to go for properties. In that, the first one is physical properties. It's a liquid with the boiling point 69 degree centigrade. It has got pyridine-like odor, right? And it's soluble in water and many organic solvents like chloroform, ether, and alcohol. So next is the chemical property. It's a weak base. Oxazole is a weak base. It forms, that's why it forms salt with the inorganic acids like hydrochloric acid. So that it shows it is a weak base. So next we are going to study chemical reactions. One thing to be observed here, the delocalization of the pi electrons in the ring. It looks like it is incomplete. So because it looks like it is incomplete, we can say it is less, it has got less aromatic character. Why is this happening? It is due to the presence of oxygen. Oxygen is a electronegative atom, right? So it's trying to keep the electrons with it, so there will be less electrons, or you feel like less electrons. The power of electrons, the electron cloud is lesser on the ring. So that's why we can say it has got less aromaticity. In this, the saying that the first reaction is electrophilic substitution reaction. It does not undergo electrophilic substitution reaction by itself. Why is that? It has got less electron cloud, so that's why it's not going to go through electrophilic substitution reaction by itself. With electronegative substituents, it is going to go through the electrophilic substitution reaction. So let's just see why is it like that. Um, Here's your electrophile, right? Electrophiles are electron loving, so they should have the positive charge, right? So they love the electrons. Who has got the electrons? The our compound oxazole has got the electrons. So it's going to like this electron. It has got the electron cloud, right? But it says it is it is not that um, leading towards electrophilic substitution reactions because of this electronegative oxygen. So we can say this end is more like negative and this end is more like positive. Okay, keeping that apart, it can react faster in presence of electron donating group. Suppose it has got electron donating groups are like methyl group. So if it is attached to the methyl group, so then it is going to react on electrophilic substitution reaction faster. This electron donating groups are going to give more electrons here, and that is going to react with that. So that's the reason there. And then order of reactivity will be C4 substitution. You will get first, and then C5 substitution, then C2 substitution. But in the reaction below here, we are going to get here the C5 substitution. Here you are taking a 2-phenyl oxazole and making that to react with the bromine. You are going to get a 5-bromo 2-phenyl oxazole. This is the substitution product you are going to get, but it is a C5 substitution. The second type of reaction, Diel-Alder reaction, we already know. It has got little less aromaticity. It is going to give out the aromaticity there, but with that, it's going to get exposed. It's addition type of reaction because of the two double bonds there. Addition type of reactions will be given by alkene and alkyne. So it's going to react with the alkyne here, as you can see here in the Diels-Alder reaction, right? It's going to give two different products, but the products what you get is not actually the substitution of oxazole. So in here dehydration is going to take place. So in that dehydration reaction, you are going to get a derivative of pyridine, and here you are going to the alkyl cyanide group is going to get removed here. Okay, it's going to get removed that moiety, and you are going to get furan here, or the furan substitution. So two different products you are going to get because of the Diel-Alder reaction, but reaction is because of the alkyl group, that alkyl molecule that is going to react with the oxazole. So this is Diel-Alder reaction, right? The next reaction is nucleophilic substitution reaction. Why nucleophilic substitution reaction is going to take place? Let's see that here. Nucleophile, we denote them like Nu, right? Nu with the electrons. They are nucleophiles. They love or they like the nucleus, right? They like the nucleus because they have the electrons. So here is the nucleus, right? You can see here it is because it is less aromatic, the nucleus of this oxazole is going to get exposed, and this nucleophile is going to attack on that, or attack of this will take place on the nucleophile. That is, nucleophilic reactions can take place, but it is not, nucleophilic reaction is not very common here. In some cases it's going to get converted to another system. Means you're taking oxazole, the final product is not going to be oxazole. And let's look at this nucleophilic substitution reaction here. On this oxazole, this is we are going to make this react with the ammonia. Ammonia can act as a nucleophile. So one, this nucleophile ammonia is going to attack over here at this position number 2, right? So amine group is going to form over there, and this ring is going to break. When it is further subject to get attacked by the ammonia, the one more amine group is going to get attached on the other side, on this side this time, right? On the next step, the dehydration is going to take place. This OH group is going to get removed by dehydration, right? And after that, one more molecule, I mean the molecule of ammonia is going to get removed. With this removal of this ammonia, you are going to get this product, right? Here you are going to get imidazole substitution product instead of oxazole substitution product. And this is purely going to happen because of the nucleophilic attack, because this nucleophile has got attacked here, because of the amino group is getting attacked here as well as getting attacked here. It is going to get converted to imidazole product, right? So this is a nucleophilic substitution reaction. The next one is oxidation reaction. What is oxidation? As we know, wherever oxidation takes place, reduction also takes place. Oxidation, reduction takes place simultaneously. That's why we call them like redox reactions. Um, But why are we saying only oxidation here? It is in relation to the compound what we are talking about. We are talking about heterocyclic compound here. Heterocyclic compound is going to get oxidized. In this case, that's why we are calling here as a oxidation reaction. Oxidation reactions, I mean, many of the oxidation reactions take place in the nature. Like you are taking food and it goes for the digestion, right? Oxidation takes place there. Photosynthesis is oxidation reaction. Rusting of iron is oxidation reaction. Let's take the example of the food what we take. We take the food which is carbohydrate, right? Carbohydrate, or ultimately oxidation is going to take place. With this, oxidation takes place because of the oxygen what we take by respiration, right? Food product carbohydrate which is C combines with the oxygen, right, O2, and it's going to give out the carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide we are going to breathe out. So this is oxidation reaction, just an example to make you understand what is actually oxidation. Oxidation is one, addition of oxygen. Oxidation also can be removal of hydrogen. Oxidation can also be removal of a pair of electrons. So here oxidation is because of the attack of the oxidation, the ring opens here. The compound, the oxazole is not going to be stable. right? The ring opens here. The oxidizing agents used are cold potassium permanganate, chromic acid, and ozone. So these can be used as oxidizing agents. In the following reaction, we are going to take the hydrogen peroxide with the acetic acid. Okay, we are going to make that react with the two oxazolile. Okay, two oxazolile. The oxazole ring is attached at the second position. Pyridine, right? Two oxa four pyridine. For pyridine, of course, its attachment is from its fourth position, right? Pyridine one. This nitrogen, pyridine nitrogen. This nitrogen is 1, 2, 3, 4, and attached from its fourth position to the second position of oxazole. That's what is 4,2-oxazole pyridine reacts with the hydrogen peroxide and acetic acid. So it's going to give you the oxidation reaction. You can see here the oxygen attached over here, right? You can see it's positive, mentioned positive here on the nitrogen and negative on the oxygen. The electron from the nitrogen is transferred to the oxygen over here. Oxidation is the transfer of electrons, right? The removal of electrons, or it is releasing the electrons. So that is going to sit on this oxygen. The resulting product is 4,2-oxazolil pyridine and oxide. So this is the oxidation product on oxazole, but the oxazole is a substitution product here. Alright, the next one is reduction. Reduction is the reverse of oxidation. So what is going to take place here? Remarkably stable towards reducing agent. So it is going to stand still. It's not going to break or anything with the reducing agent. A reduction to oxazolidines done by sodium. In drastic conditions, you can do the reductions. So reduction to oxazolidine, then comes oxazolidine, right? So first partial reduction is oxazoline. The next partial reduction is oxazolidine. So you can get oxazolidines by sodium, by action of sodium in ethanol. Following further ring cleavage, so if you further reduce, the ring can get cleaved. So in both oxidation and reductions, the ring can get cleaved if the oxidizing and reducing agent are very strong. So in this case, the ring has broken. Um, 2,5-diphenyl oxazole is subjected to the exposure to lithium aluminum hydride and THF tetrahydrofuran. Okay, so the resulting product is ring open reaction, the open chain reaction. It's going to be 2-benzyl at 2-benzyl amino 1-phenyl ethanol. This is ethanol, as you can see here, CH2 CHOH. This is ethanol. For ethanol, at position number 2, at position number 2 you have benzyl group C6H5, and you have on the other side 1-phenyl ethanol amino. Okay, benzyl amino. This is benzyl, and this whole thing is benzyl amino ethanol. On the other side of the ethanol you have amino 1-phenyl group. So whole compound is 2-benzyl amino 1-phenyl ethanol. So this is the reduction of oxazole. So next we will study medicinal uses of oxazole. So oxazole ring moiety, it is also called moiety or nucleus. All these are synonymous. It can, you can call it as a ring or moiety or nucleus. So this will be there, oxazole ring will be there. It will be hidden in some medicinal compounds. That means what? That means as we are trying to substitute the oxazole, more and more oxazole, getting different compounds, we are trying to produce these kind of products. So we can try to produce analgesic product using oxazole ring. We can try to produce anti-inflammatory product. We can try to produce platelet aggregation inhibitor product. We can try to produce antibiotic uh, products. We can try to produce antiviral product using oxazole ring. So here two compounds in that. The first one is oxaprozin. Oxaprozin is a anti-inflammatory product. Oxaprozin, you can see the oxazole ring over here, right? Oxaprozin is in the market. The brand name is Daypro. Oxaprozin is anti-inflammatory in nature, but it is mainly used as anti-rheumatic, right? It is used in rheumatic conditions. Rheumatism is nothing but inflammation in the joints. So it is used as anti-rheumatic medicine, or it's used in rheumatic disorder, right? Like rheumatic arthritis, osteoarthritis, it can be used. So next medicine is ditazole. Ditazole is a platelet aggregation inhibitor. So what is the use of platelet aggregation inhibitor? Ditazole, you can see the oxazole ring over here. But ditazole is very similar to oxaprozin. You can see in the structure. Only this side chain, there is one more side chain here. Okay, that difference you can see over here. Add little bit difference in the structure. So ditazole, it is platelet aggregation inhibitor. So what is the use of this? This is used in myocardial infarction. So myocardial infarction is nothing but heart attack. When surrounding the heart, there are coronary blood vessels. When coronary blood vessel is useful because it supplies the oxygen and food to the heart, oxygen and nutrients to the heart, and that's why heart survives, heart beats, and heart gets energy to beat, right? When there is problem with this coronary, I mean when there is blockage inside the coronary artery, then the heart is not going to pump. So this is nothing but a heart attack. The heart attack can take place like when there is a blockage because of the fat, right? Fat accumulated inside the blood vessel, which is called atherosclerosis, or when there is blockage because of the blood clot. When there is blood clot, the blood is not going to flow inside the coronary artery, and heart is not going to get the oxygen and nutrients. The heart is not going to pump the blood, so the heart attack will take place. So to when there is minor attacks, right? The doctor will ask for the uh, surgery like bypass surgery or angioplasty, or they will put the stunt. When they put the stunt, what happens stunt, or when they do the surgery, there may be chances of blood clot remaining over there, right? To break this blood clot, they are going to use this platelet aggregation inhibitor. Blood clot will happen because of the platelet aggregation. Platelets, they join together to form the clot. and the fibrin, blood fibrin will also include in this. They all form the clot, and it starts from platelet aggregation. So to block this platelet aggregation, you are going to use ditazole. So ditazole is used as a platelet aggregation. That's why the aggregation inhibitor. So that's why platelet aggregation is not going to take place. Blood clot is not going to take place after that bypass surgery. Bypass surgery or putting the stent or angioplasty. And it is also used on precautionary basis, as a prophylaxis in patients who may come across this chances of coming across this heart attack or high blood pressure. I mean, the chronic high blood pressure. So in such cases, as a precautionary basis, as a prophylaxis, they can give this medicine. So these are the two drugs you are studying here. And thank you very much. If you have any questions, please let me know.